I want to hear about the process of making the book. I always tell people I write poems, not books. And I feel as though the assembly into book is its own whole craft. So share a little bit about that process.
Yeah,
The animated
this
universe.
animated universe is. I have a funny path as a poet in that I'm considered pretty seasoned, but it's my debut book. These poems have been published. They've been published for 20 years in different anthologies, and I do write poems and not books. I actually really subscribe to that. I wrote poems, and this is 20 years of poems, written from disparate places in my life, different spaces, different evolutions, different experimentations, and it came time to assemble it. And over time, I'd been creating manuscripts and sending to the Covey Conan Prize. Not too heavy, just so I already had the poems were definitely already in conversation with each other as a body for some time in the manuscript format. First, it's like the dissertation, and then you go through life and you retain some of the poems from the dissertation that you feel this still represents me, and you carve away many, and it's literally my selected poems in a debut piece. These are my favorite poems that I feel made it, through the cesspool of poems. And so in the process of making the book, it was a hot mess in the sense that the title changed like 4 times.
Only 4?
The title changed so many times, and every time the title changed, it had a kind of different identity. And but I will say that when the animated universe came about as a title, it did something. Like once I had the title, it was like the way I felt when I was about to name my children. Like this is their names. I don't know why I know this, but these are the names of my children, and this is how the animated universe felt. And so I started to look at the poems through that lens of animation. Like, what is this animated universe? This is a phrase that I use several times in the book, and it really speaks to the ways in which it really is a nod to the odes that I've written over time. I fell in love with the ode as a mode of like a meditation, almost like a medicine for my life, to be able to elevate the mundane, to be able to look at these sacred objects that we ignore every day, that we take for granted every day. The way Pablo Neruda, looked at the world through the lens of love, and the onion on the ground, the potato, the hummingbird. So I sort of, I call him my baby daddy of poetry, because without Pablo Neruda's poems, so many of mine wouldn't exist. So I found the way that when he really meditated on the tomato or on the Black Panther, in that cage that he saw in Vietnam in the middle of the street, it becomes animated. The Black Panther was definitely animated. But when you think about inanimate objects, he animates the inanimate with his attentions and with his images. Like, you don't just see an onion, you see a bird he compares the onion to, a fairy godmother wrapped in delicate paper. He calls it a star of the poor. This is an onion, you know what I mean? So in imbuing it with all of the universe, this is where I feel like I pulled a page from his playbook with my poems, and seeing the animation and the inanimate, and seeing the consciousness and recognizing and honoring the consciousness in everything, that exists. So I feel like my poems really carry that energy. A lot of them are meditations on everyday things, and I find that when I was able to see my poems in that umbrella, like in that context, then I feel like everything came together very naturally. And when I gave them to my editor, Kwame Dawes, I thought that he was going to come back. I heard that he's like a beast with ordering, like that's his thing. So I was expecting, I handed it to him with absolutely full humility in that regard. Like, I probably don't have it right. Like, this is what I got. I don't know if he was on the road or what, but he hardly touched the order. He said the order was just fine. I was shocked. I was like, for real? So that part was easy. But there were some poems that he wanted taken out, and then I found poems from my archives that I wanted to add, and he was really delighted by that. But it was a process all up until it went to print. It was pouring over every single word. It was maddening, and this is what we have. It's perfectly imperfect.